All right, if you just joined us, it's still Journalist Hangout. I still have BKO right here with us and Sukwo James. Moving straight to our next conversation. For the former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, it's time to have a date with the law. El-Rufai honored an invitation at the headquarters of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission EFCC in Abuja as part of ongoing reviews concerning his time in office. EFCC investigators are questioning him over allegations of financial misconduct involving about 432 billion naira. This came after the federal government filed a 3-count charge against him, alleging that he unlawfully intercepted the phone communication of the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu. Operatives of the EFCC also fired tear gas to disperse anti-El-Rufai protesters who besieged the office, calling for his prosecution. Okay, joining us for this conversation, we'll still have the lawyer and CEO founder founder of House of Justice, Gloria Balasin, will join us for this conversation. But before we go into that, BKO, looking at this conversation, El-Rufai is having his time, with the law.
Yes, no man is bigger than the state. And no man has two heads. No man is above the law. I'm sure that Nasir El-Rufai realizes this very well because in this case, the EFCC has responded to the report of the House of Assembly on his time as governor. They claim that a lot of the contracts that he awarded were not executed. People just bailed with money and all that. You see abandoned projects in some places, like the bridge in Zaria, So as far as the EFCC is concerned, they've been doing some investigative work on him for 1 year. We don't know how far they've gone, but I think that for somebody of El-Rufai's stature, if you want to accuse him of corruption, you better
have your
get
facts
your facts right, because it will be embarrassing if it turns out that they do not have anything, any cast iron evidence against him.
Absolutely. Asukun, your thoughts on this before we go to our subject?
Because I know that there are so many latter-day supporters of Nasir El-Rufai.
Call them latter-day supporters.
Most of them will say he's politically motivated and all that. Yeah. But this particular petition was written by the State House of Assembly, and they did their due diligence. They brought in external auditors and they checked the books, and they found out that things were not, the books were not, right. So there are some figures that were not right, And even when they called him to come and defend himself, he refused. So that was why they actually sent it to the EFCC to look into, to invite him, because he's still under invitation. Let's use that word. It is only when after the invitation, the EFCC will now know what next to do, whether to prosecute him or to tell him, okay, administrative bill, he can go home, but be coming to come and answer.
He's denying wrongdoing.
So we believe that he has his own books. How, why, and all these monies were, going to, and what they were used for.
Okay. All right, let's stretch this conversation further. Joining us via Zoom for more discussion on this issue about El-Rufai is a lawyer, CEO and founder of House of Justice, Gloria Balasin. Thank you so much for joining us, madam.
Thank you. Good evening.
All right, then. Let's start with the case with EFCC over alleged 432 billion naira fraud, which has divided opinion and drawn protesters to the agency's office in Abuja. What's your view about people calling for his prosecution?
Well, there are There have been allegations against the former state governor of Kaduna State, Malam Nasir El-Rufai. And it's taken some time to get to this point. The Kaduna State House of Assembly has been on the matter. There has been a probe and a report was submitted. And now that we're here, it's important that the former state governor responds to the allegations that have been put before him, especially because there have been investigations before the invitation to the EFCC.
There are many people in Kaduna State, like Audu Maikori, have accused El-Rufai of persecution and indiscriminate arrest. They also point to the arrest of some traditional rulers in Adara. How will you react to this?
There have been litany of human rights violations by the former state governor. Audu Maikori was one of those people. Stephen Kefas was another one. Professor Chidi Odinkalu was one of those that he had done everything he possibly could to try to arrest him as well. In fact, in the case of Professor Chidi Odinkalu, they had procured the chief magistrate of Kaduna State to get an order to arrest him and to detain him. And all of these were done without even putting him on notice. And it had to take us filing the process before the court and asking the court to set aside the order that the court had already granted ex parte. And even when the magistrate refused to go ahead with that, it took strenuous engagement with the international community, including the International Community of Jurists, Amnesty International, the American Bar Association of and the African Bar. It was an international intervention that forced the retract that happened. Now, with the chiefs from the Bagwam Kurmi, Dr. Damina, who was arrested and thrown into prison by Mala Nasser El-Rufai in very curious circumstances, because the chief had turned over a notorious criminal who was besieging their area in the Kurama chiefdom. And the response of the state governor was to get him arrested and thrown into jail. Unfortunately, because of the nature of the challenges that went on at the time, the chief died. And I led the protest on the illegal arrest and detention of Dr. Damina, the chief of Kurama at the time. And on that very day, while the journalists were covering the protest, the next news that came in was that the house of Alhaji Inu Abdul Kadir, the former Attorney General of Sokoto State, was being demolished. So those were the kind of violations that we had. Of course, there's also the case of Dr. Raphael, the Agom Adara, who was invited by the state governor, and on his return, his aides were first, he was ambushed, his aides were killed, he and his wife were kidnapped, his wife was later released, but he was killed, and his body was found on the road, on Abuja Road. Then again, his chiefdom, the Adara chiefdom, was scrapped by El-Rufai, and then he balkanized the chiefdom and converted them to 3 emirates. As we have this conversation, the Adara chiefdom no longer exists because the former governor literally scrapped that chiefdom. In many other chiefdoms in southern Kaduna, their names were changed. So you can imagine having an identity and someone just uses executive fiat to just change those identities. Then there were also chiefs like the Etu Numana, who in the last week of El-Rufai's stay in power, he and the chief of Piriga were just arbitrarily removed from office. So these were the kind of violations that happened under El-Rufai. Many of those cases were led by our law firm, House of Justice. And so we are in a position to speak authoritatively to the violations that took place under the watch of the former governor.
Yeah, I know he's also been accused with what you are saying is like he organized people to adopt, people and also to detain people like you. But so many people will be wondering, why now? Why didn't you come out all this while to come and, tell people that he was actually detaining you people or he actually adopted you people? Why now?
It will be factually inaccurate to say that this is just happening now. When Kuri was abducted from Lagos State, we went to court, and it was the Federal High Court in Abuja that entered judgment, and 40 million naira was awarded. And the Court of Appeal also upheld the judgment. I led that case. It was the same thing also with Stephen Kefas. Stephen Kefas was abducted from Port Harcourt and taken by road to Kaduna. Again, I led that case. I also led the case of Professor Chidi Odinkalu. So we're not just coming out now. This is not the point where we're coming out. But again, because he was governor, he was covered by immunity at the time. And so what we could do was to sue the government of Kaduna State. Now it is important that having been stripped of that immunity, that he is held accountable as a person. And that was why we filed the case on the unlawful detention of the 9 Adara elders who were unjustly imprisoned by El-Rufai. And then the Federal High Court awarded 900 million against Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai as a person, and then 20 million against the Nigerian police. So it's not that this we're just coming out now because there are a series of events that are occurring. No, this is a continuation. But then again, it's also important to have this conversation and to elevate it to a point of saying that as a country, our jurisprudence must shift from allowing people who carry out criminal activities while in power to be covered by immunity. Because the idea of immunity does not strip one who has sworn to uphold the Constitution to then turn around to violate the Constitution egregiously. My understanding of it is that if someone has sworn that he will uphold the Constitution, that he cannot then go about now brandishing the immunity clause as a cover. But we will also need for our jurisprudence and our courts to be able to enter this kind of innovative judgments that do not give free way for people in power to carry out egregious acts of violations and impunity and then get away with it. Because too often what happens is that they're able to clean their tracks and gathering evidence becomes difficult. Thankfully, in the case that we're dealing with now, there are still evidence to be able to hold Malam Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai accountable.
All right, still talking about the former governor is also under investigation over loans obtained during his administration, which Kaduna State House of Assembly Committee alleged were mismanaged or used without due process. How will you react to this?
The loans that were taken is not just the question of due process that is up to be answered. It is also how his cronies were used to break down these loans in a manner that did not follow due process, and that those people themselves had no constitutional basis for engaging in the deployment of these loans. Take, for instance, Mr. Jimmy Lawal, who had no constitutional role except a special advisor. He literally was one of those who ran the state as a personal investment. But then also, you also have the situation where the loans that were received by the former state governor, it was deployed in the northern part of the state, thereby excluding the southern part of the state as though they are not a people that exist. Now, when you are a public official, and particularly in the position of a governor, you swear to uphold the Constitution and to not be arbitrary in how you deal with people, and also not to violate rights. But for Malam Nasir El-Rufai, we found that even with the indeed, the Kaduna State House of Assembly found that due process was not followed in the loans, and then the deployment of the loans for the projects were not in tandem with what the loans were taken from. Now, the long-term effect of that is that you're going to have citizens paying off for a loan that they probably have not benefited from, especially for those in the suburban and rural areas in southern Kaduna who were not beneficiaries of those loans. They themselves will have to service those loans. And most of the citizens that live in Kaduna will continue to pay off those loans for a long time. I'm sure you must have followed the news by when the present governor took over power. Just the sheer weight of that loan did not allow them to be able to take off smoothly because there were salaries to be paid and there were liabilities that were inherited, particularly the liabilities of paying off court cases and damages that were awarded against the former governor. So it's a litany of issues that are up now for engagement, from the loans that were taken and not properly used, and then the violations of the rights of citizens.
Yeah, talking about demolishing people's homes, it was said that one particular person had his home demolished and he fell sick as a result of that and died. Don't we have situations or provisions in our law that can ensure that such victims of this rampant demolition get justice?
We have provisions in our laws, but it will also take people moving away from the fortuitous, dependence, or just waiting for karma to take its lot. Alhaji Abdulkadir Inua, Alhaji Inua Abdulkadir was a former Attorney General, and he was an elder statesman. Incidentally, he was also the chairman Northwest of APC, the party where El-Rufai was governor under. But to show you the extent of the violations, even he was not spared. And so it will be up to the survivors and the families of Alhaji Inua Abdulkadir, and indeed many other people who lost their lives, because in Bagi Villa, less than 2 weeks before the end of his tenure, there were mass demolitions. And there were people who were shot dead by those who went there to effect those demolitions. Our people, and when I say our people, I mean citizens, generally just feel like when you want to hold the government accountable, you're on an uphill task that's almost impossible. But I hope that what they see now stacks up their spine to be able to seek redress and to ask for the enforcement of their rights and to ensure that the former governor is brought to book.
Yeah, I know that you would have heard about timing. People are saying the timing of his arrest or the detention, okay, is political, in quotes. Now, what do you think? Do you think it's political, his detention?
I think that those who are in the political realm should not act as though this country belongs to politicians alone. Speaking from the sphere of law, if a matter has not exceeded its statute of limitation, then it's still subject to interrogation, investigation, and prosecution. Criminal cases, for instance, do not have a statute of limitation. And when we're talking about misappropriation, it is within the sphere of criminality. So the question about it being political is not an issue where politicians and those who are his associates can push it and overwhelm what the reality of the issue is. The issue is the question of accountability. And now that we're here, I hope that this provides a perfect opportunity to raise the bar for leadership so that we don't have the ilk of El-Rufai, or if there are people who are contemplating this kind of violations, that they learn from this incident, that they will not get away with it.
All right, thank you so much for having this conversation with us. We've been speaking with Gloria Ballison. She's a lawyer, the CEO and founder of House of Justice. Thank you so much for having this conversation with us.
Good evening.
All right, then, BKO, what's your takeaway from what she's...
Well, I think the constant remark that, oh, this is politically motivated and all that, I think our people should stop it. Our people should stop it. Or that, oh, the timing is wrong, this and that, or the timing. The election is still almost a year away. So what is wrong in arresting someone today? So are they giving us the impression that the people who are in the opposition, they are now saints, that nobody should come for them? Those who, some of them were in government just yesterday, and we know what they did. So the fact that they've joined ADC or another party, does that claim, does that insulate them from prosecution, or has totally cleaned up their bodies, that they are now white as snow, that nobody should talk? I don't understand. There's no, if you are doing the right thing and you are convinced that you are doing the right thing, there is no better time to do the right thing, to do what is right. There's no better time. So I don't understand what people are saying. If they pick someone who was notorious in the last administration, if they pick him up, you say, oh, it's political. We can never win the war against corruption with this kind of attitude. It also shows that some of the people who sit on social media, X and other places, pretending to be good Nigerians, patriotic Nigerians, they too are worse than these politicians.
Exactly.
Because to some of them, the only person who is guilty in this country is Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Exactly.
All of the infractions that the former CBN governor has committed, if you bring up his matter in some quarters, they don't even want you to talk about it. They don't even want you to talk about it. To them, he has become a saint because he has moved into the, because he's no longer, because this current government is put him on trial. Now, some of the people in the ADC, notorious people that we know very well, people who are as clean as a sewage pit, they are now telling us, once they come for them, they will say, oh, it's
politically motivated.
Oh, there are some people who have stolen money that they can't spend in 2 lifetimes. Some of them have not moved to the ADC. But once they move, you then begin to hear these funny people on Twitter and other places saying that, oh, it's politically motivated. If you have nothing to hide, you should be ready to defend yourself. And that was the point I made with the rest of Malami the other day. Once they gave him invitation, he was the one who leaked it to the press.
Exactly.
So the media trial actually began from his own end.
Exactly.
Why would you do that? Just go and face these people.
Exactly.
The questions that they are going to ask you, answer the questions.
Simple.
And if you're clean, they'll let you go.
They will let you go. A clean heart has nothing to fear.
Exactly.
I think those in authority now, they should know that at some point they will give accounts.
Exactly.
You understand? And so this is what we are just asking for. You are a governor for 8 years. Okay, how did you spend the amount of money? That is the only thing we just want to know.
Explain yourself.
You know?
And that's it. All right,
No evidence, you go explain.
All right, BK, thank you so much for having this conversation with us. Appreciate you. Asuko, thank you very much. And that's it on Journalist Hangout today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can watch the repeat broadcast of this episode tonight at 11. Join us on Sunday from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. for Journalist Hangout on Sunday. We are on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Benga Oreshegun. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.